I never used to worry about leaving my apartment empty. I lived in a quiet neighborhood on the second floor of a small apartment building. Nothing ever really happened there. Most people worked during the day. The parking lot was usually empty by 9, and the building had one of those old electronic entry systems where you needed a code to get through the front door. I had lived there for almost 3 years. So when I came home one Friday afternoon and noticed my apartment door wasn't completely locked, I didn't immediately think anything of it. I actually thought I'd forgotten to lock it. I had been rushing that morning. I remember putting my coffee on the counter, grabbing my bag and running out because I was already late for work. So when I saw the door slightly open, I just stood there for a second and thought, I must have done that. I pushed it open. Everything looked normal. The television was off. My laptop was still on the desk. Nothing appeared to be missing. I walked into the kitchen, dropped my keys on the counter, and started making coffee. Then I noticed something. One of the kitchen cabinets was open. It was the cabinet underneath the sink. I almost laughed. I figured I'd left it open that morning. But when I closed it, I noticed the trash can beside it had been moved about a foot. That bothered me. Still, I had an explanation. Maybe I'd bumped it. Maybe the cleaning lady had moved it. I didn't think about it again until that night. Around 11, I went to bed. A few minutes later, I heard something, a very soft sound, like a floorboard creaking. I sat up. The apartment was completely quiet. I waited. Nothing. I told myself it was the building. Then I heard it again. This time it sounded like something had brushed against the wall outside my bedroom. I got out of bed and checked the apartment, living room, kitchen, bathroom, nothing. I locked the front door again and went back to bed. The next morning I noticed my bathroom window was unlocked. That was strange. I never opened that window. It was winter and the bathroom was freezing enough already. I started feeling uneasy. I checked my bedroom. My closet door was open. I always kept it closed. Then I noticed something even stranger. A pair of shoes I'd left beside my bed had been moved, not far, maybe 2 feet. But I knew I hadn't moved them. I called my friend and told him what was happening. He laughed. He said, "You're freaking yourself out." And honestly, I agreed. Until that evening, I came home from work and immediately noticed something was wrong. My bedroom door was closed. I always left it open. I slowly walked toward it. Then I stopped. I could hear something, breathing, very quiet, coming from inside the room. I didn't open the door. I backed away. Then I heard the floor creak. Someone was moving. I ran. I grabbed my keys, sprinted down the stairs, and called the police from outside. When they searched the apartment, they didn't find anyone, but one officer noticed something behind my bedroom closet. There was a small access panel I'd never noticed. It connected to a narrow maintenance space between apartments. The panel had been opened, and there were fresh fingerprints around the edge. They eventually found out someone had been entering the building through an unlocked maintenance door in the basement. He hadn't stolen anything from me. He had apparently just been hiding inside the apartment while I was gone. The worst part? The police couldn't determine exactly how long he'd been doing it. It could have been days. It could have been weeks. And I still think about that first night, when I heard the floorboard creak and convinced myself it was nothing. Story 2. My daughter wouldn't go upstairs. This happened when my daughter was 8. At the time, it was just the 2 of us living in a small 2-story house. My wife was away visiting her parents for a few days, so I was working from home and taking care of my daughter. The first day was completely normal. We had dinner. She watched cartoons. I worked on my laptop. Nothing strange happened. The next morning, I took her to school and came back home. I worked until around 5, picked her up, and we came home. That's when she said something strange. She looked toward the stairs and asked, "Dad, why is your friend upstairs?" I laughed. I didn't have anyone over. I asked her what she meant. She said, "The man." I told her there was nobody upstairs. She just shrugged. Kids say strange things sometimes. I didn't think much of it. That evening I checked upstairs anyway. Both bedrooms were empty. The bathroom was empty. Closets were empty. Everything looked normal. The next morning I noticed the back door wasn't fully closed. It was still locked, but the door wasn't sitting properly in the frame. I assumed I'd closed it badly. Then I noticed something on the kitchen floor. A muddy footprint. Just one. I stared at it for a while. My first thought was that my daughter had stepped outside. But she hadn't. I cleaned it up. Later that afternoon, she refused to go upstairs. She stood at the bottom of the staircase and said, "He's still there." I asked her who. She pointed upstairs. "The man." This time I didn't laugh. I went upstairs and searched again. Nothing. I even checked under the beds. Nothing. I started wondering if someone had actually been getting into the house. So that night, I checked every window, every door. I made sure everything was locked. Then I put a chair underneath the back door handle. Around 2 a.m, I woke up. I don't know what woke me. The house was silent. I walked into the hallway. My daughter's bedroom door was open. She was asleep. Then I heard a noise downstairs. A very soft metallic sound, like someone touching the kitchen drawer. I froze. I grabbed my phone. I didn't turn on the lights. I quietly woke my daughter and whispered, "Get up." She immediately started crying. I carried her into my bedroom and locked the door. Then we heard footsteps. Slow footsteps. Coming up the stairs. I called the police. The footsteps stopped. For what felt like forever, there was silence. Then the bedroom door handle moved. Once. Twice. I pushed my dresser against the door. My daughter was hiding behind me. Then we heard someone run downstairs. A few minutes later, the police arrived. They found a man hiding in the crawl space underneath the stairs. He had apparently entered through a small basement window. He had been inside the house while I was at work. And suddenly my daughter's strange comment made sense. She hadn't imagined the man. She had seen him. The police believed he'd been hiding upstairs when she came home from school. I still think about what she said that first day. "Why is your friend upstairs?" I thought she was talking about someone she imagined. She wasn't. Story 3. Something had been moved. I was living alone in a small rented house when this happened. It wasn't an isolated house. There were neighbors on both sides. There was a grocery store about 5 minutes away. And I'd never experienced any crime in the area. So I felt safe. Every morning I left for work around 8. Every evening I came home around 6. My routine never changed. Then one Monday I noticed my bedroom window was open. Just a little, maybe 2 inches. I immediately assumed I'd left it that way. I closed it. The next day I noticed my kitchen chair wasn't where I normally kept it. Again. Nothing serious. I figured I'd moved it. Wednesday my bathroom cabinet was open. Thursday, the television remote was sitting on the kitchen counter. I kept finding these tiny things. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. But things were moving. I started feeling stupid for even worrying about it. Then Friday happened. I came home from work and noticed the front door was unlocked. I knew I'd locked it. I always locked it. I stood outside for several seconds. I didn't want to walk inside, but eventually I did. The house looked normal. I checked every room. Nothing. I called my brother. He told me to stay somewhere else for the night. I agreed. I packed a bag. Then I went into my bedroom. That's when I noticed something. The closet door was slightly open. I knew I'd closed it that morning. I walked toward it, then stopped. There was a sound coming from inside, a tiny movement, fabric rubbing against fabric. I backed away. I didn't open the closet. I quietly walked out of the house and called the police. 2 officers arrived. One entered first. They searched the house. Nothing. Then one officer opened the closet. Empty. I felt embarrassed. I thought maybe I'd imagined the sound. Then the second officer noticed something. The closet had a false bottom. There was a small opening underneath the floor. It led into a crawl space beneath the house. And inside that crawl space, they found a blanket, empty food containers, several bottles of water, and photographs. Photographs of my house, taken from outside. Some showed me leaving for work, some showed my bedroom window, and one showed me sleeping. The police never found the person responsible. They believed he'd been entering through the crawl space and watching the house while I was gone. The strangest part was that he hadn't taken anything valuable. He'd only moved small objects, a chair, a remote, a cabinet door, a window, just enough to let me know he was there. And I think that's what scares me most. Because if he'd wanted to steal something, I could understand that, but he wasn't stealing, he was watching. And every time I ignored one of those little signs, he learned that he could get away with it. Even now, whenever I come home and notice something slightly out of place, I don't immediately assume I'm forgetful anymore. I check the doors. I check the windows. I check the closets. Because sometimes the smallest thing out of place isn't an